Okay. All right. I'm so excited to talk about time management because what do we usually think about? My dad used to say, my dad died when he was 94. But for years and years before he died, he would always say, honey, tempus fugit. And I didn't know what that meant. It's Latin and it means time flies, you know. And he used to say that all the time. In fact, the nursing home that he ended up staying in, where he passed, I didn't even notice this till like right when he was on hospice, right before he died, that the clock, you know how, it's the face of the clock, but kind of like below the 12, it says Tempus Fugit on that clock at Valley View. Well, the clock that was up then. And I'm like, that's interesting. So, and he always said, honey, the older you get, the faster time goes. And I know it doesn't, but it sure seems like it does. So let's just talk about time management. So you guys, what does everyone have, regardless of your age, your background, your ethnicity, your title, your position of leadership? Everybody has time, right? Everyone has 168 hours in the week. And I checked, I did the math. I did it twice because teachers should always double check their work. So I did, and it's 168, I'm just saying. So we all have the same amount of time. What makes the difference between successful and unsuccessful? And I don't really want to use the word unsuccessful, but people who, well, I'm going to just say it. Sometimes it is successful and unsuccessful people. What makes the difference? I think it's how they invest those 168 hours, or how they spend their time. And I want you to think about something. And I know Janice talked about this before. And sometimes you have to experience before you actually believe it. But I want you to think about this. God wouldn't call us to do something that he would not also give us the time or the capacity for us to see it come into fruition. Okay, so God's not going to give us, we've heard God won't give you more than you can. Well, he's not going to give you a vision or a dream in your heart and then not give you the time or the capacity to see it through. Okay, so when people say they don't have enough time, that's always interesting to me because usually it's one of two things. Now, disclaimer is the things I'm going to tell you about, I'm sure I have done them. So I'm not trying to get up here and say, well, I don't do, because I've done every one of these things, but this is what I've observed. So first thing is not investing your time well, sort of squandering the time you've been given on this earth with things that maybe don't really matter or they're just kind of insignificant. And so an example of that would be scrolling on Facebook. I may have done that a time or two. Binge watching Grey's Anatomy. That was during the pandemic. I will say that I did that, and I stayed up really late. It was during non-people hours to do that. But those are some of the examples. Okay, so the first thing is not investing your time very well. And the second thing is saying yes to too many things. Often people who are people pleasers, of which I am one, and I'm trying, not that I don't want to please people, but I'm trying to learn when to say yes and when to say no. And I think that's so important because when you say yes to everything, you're saying no to God's vision for your life because you're spread too thin. Okay, so think about it that way. And I know that sounds kind of, harsh, but when you say yes to everything, now disclaimer, everything, I'm not saying not to say yes to some things, but when you say yes to everything because you just feel like, well, nobody else is going to do it, so I have to, I feel like I need to step in. You're saying no to the vision that God has for your life because you can't do everything. You just can't. So learning to say no is just a really, really big piece of time management. So let's talk a little bit about time management tools. And I know that you've heard this before. The weekly plan sheet. Yes, I'm going to say it. The WPS, the weekly plan sheet. And I have an example of it. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So what is a weekly plan sheet? It's basically a map of your week. And this is your waking hours. We don't want to know what you do like from midnight on. You don't have to put that down, but your waking hours. And it's a map of your waking hours. It's put into a grid broken down by hour, or it can even be by the half hour, however that works for you. And that's Monday through Saturday. So every minute of your waking hours is planned. So why should we do a weekly plan sheet? For one thing is When you do a weekly plan sheet, your day is intentional. Okay, that's a big word, intent, intentional. And their time that way is just well thought out. And so you're investing time in things that matter the most. You know, we've said this before, you can't change anything in your life until you change what you do daily. So think of how important it is to invest your time well on a daily basis. So the weekly plan sheet, it doesn't have to be the Mary Kay weekly plan sheet. It could be something, similar. It's the concept, the whole concept of planning your week. It's just a really great place to start. And once a week, and I know you've heard Jana talk about this before. The first time she said this, I didn't know what the heck she was talking about, but she talks about brain dump a lot. And I remember the first time, it kind of took me a while to figure out what she meant. She really didn't say it. And I'm like, okay, I kind of had to listen. And so a brain dump, a lot of people use Sunday as planning time. And that's a really good time to do a brain dump. So what's a brain dump? It's where you start, basically your brain dump is where you just literally dump everything that's been rattling around in your brain and you put it down on paper. Things like, what do you want to do in the coming week? What do you need to do? What's urgent? What's important? What's valuable? You're going to put all those things down on paper, and there's no organization for this. Okay. So the idea is just to get it on paper. You don't have to categorize it, just put the stuff down. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take a look at the list, and then you're going to filter out the things that are of greatest value. You're going to look at the things that are going to add the most to your life. And you're going to look at the things that are going to add to your business the most. Okay. So greatest value, what's going to add the most to my life? What's going to add the most to my business? Then you're going to filter through those tasks, or filter your tasks through those questions. And you're going to pull out the things that are moving you closer to your vision and the future you want to create. Okay. So look at those tasks and think, what's going to pull me closer? What's going to move me closer to my vision? What's going to move me closer to the future I want to create for me and for my family? So then you're going to plug those things into hours of your day. And here's just some examples. Remember, I said waking hours. So here's some things you could plug into your weekly plan sheet. Prayer time, workout time. Well, I don't like to do that one, but anyway, you could do that. Parties, booking appointments, meal prep time. I don't like doing that either. If you have a regular job, okay, that's going to be, because that's non-negotiable. You can't just, decide not to go to work. Well, you could, but the outcome might not be as you wanted it to be. You're going to go ahead and plug in, if you go to church, if you have Bible study, date night with your husband or significant other intentional time with your children. Okay. And notice I said intentional. That's not just everybody kind of, well, I don't want to judge what's intentional or not, but it's not just like this stuff happens. You plan it. Okay. You plan that you and your kids are going to do this certain activity. It doesn't just happen. It's not that anything's wrong with spontaneity, but you just really have to be intentional. And so let's talk a little bit about prioritizing things as far as your business goes. And we've talked about this a little bit. We've called them IPAs, which are income producing activities. And Dolores, wake up. I'm talking about IPAs. You need to be awake for this. Okay, so so these are things that are important to your Mary Kay business, but they're not high priority. They're not your highest priority. Okay, so listen to this. Unpacking inventory, organizing inventory, adding customers to preferred customer program, entering sales on InTouch, putting stickers on products. Those things are all busy work. And I know, and I feel like I work better when I have stuff organized. Oops, excuse me, it's medicine time. When stuff is organized, I just feel better. But those are things you do during your non-people hours, okay? They're important to your business, but they're not the highest priority. What is the highest priority to your business? I bet you guys know the answer to this already. We talk about it all the time. Book, coach, sell, recruit. Full circle. Book, coach, sell, recruit. So get in front of people by sharing the product and by sharing the opportunity. That's what's going to create growth in your business. And when you create growth in your business, you're going to build relationships. And when you build relationships, you're going to create that income for your family that you desire. You're going to have more flexibility. You're going to grow as a leader. Some of these intentional things, sometimes it could take you away a little bit from family. And we've talked about that a little bit. There are times that I might have wanted to do something with my family, like when I was going through DIQ, but I knew that if I devoted some, the specific time that I had set aside for Mary Kay, if I did that, that somewhere down the line, it might not be next month, it might not be next year, I was going to have more freedom just because I had maybe given up a little bit of something later on down the line. It was really going to allow me to be freer. And I found that to be very true. Excuse me. You're going to help other people feel important, and you're going to create a sustainable business. So when you're looking at your brain dump, your priority is being in front of people, okay? Whether it's booking, coaching, selling, recruiting. So fill those things on the plan sheet first. And what do you do with everything else? Because you're saying, Rosie, there's more than just those things. I'm not going to get into detail, but I want you to really listen to this, because I did not. And it took me a couple of years to actually do this. Janet always said, what can you delegate to somebody else in your household? What can you delegate to another family member? Could the kids load the dishwasher? Could they unload the dishwasher? Will you be able to find where they put things 5 years from now? That's okay. Delegate some things. When your kids and your husband or whoever, you live with, when they have a part in this, it's just going to be such a family effort. It wasn't just you doing something on your own. With them participating, they're going to realize, first of all, how important it is to you and how important they are to help your dream, your family dream, come true. So delegate. I didn't have that many people to delegate to. It was just my husband and I, and there wasn't a lot to do, but one thing I did every week was clean my house. And finally, I think it's been 2 years now, I finally have somebody cleaning my house. And I still go around and clean up a little bit before she comes. I will admit that. But they're really good, and I don't go around and clean up afterwards because I like what they do. So do you know how freeing it is to have somebody else cleaning your toilets? You got to do what's right for you. If you're somebody that loves to clean toilets, we'll do that during your non-people hours. I don't feel like it's beneath me to do it. I just don't like to do it. It's kind of like cooking. I don't like to do that either. If I could that's what I'll do next. I'll hire a chef. So anyway, that has freed me up so much. And to me, it's worth that $100 or whatever I spend every month, because in that 2 hours that somebody's there cleaning, actually 4 hours, what could you be doing with 4 hours in your Mary Kay business? You could be selling like a lot. You could be recruiting somebody, and so I feel like now, especially as a director, I feel like that is just money well spent. And I used to feel like I could do everything. Well, I can have, especially when I was teaching, I could have kids, I could have, a job, I could have my Mary Kay business, I could still clean, you're going to run yourself ragged, trust me. And it'll feel like you've never done any of those things good enough. When you delegate it to somebody else, it just makes life so much easier. Some other things, like have a high school kid come in and enter your sales on the computer. Have them unbox your inventory and check off, that's such a time waster. And other people can do that. Pay them a Mary Kay product. It's just, I think it just makes sense. Another thing, I was thinking about this the other day. I went to pay my water bill. And all I did is I found, my email, and it said, pay your bill. I pushed a button, my credit card stuff was still in there, and my bill was paid. And I thought, how cool is that? Sometimes technology is a pain, but sometimes it's such a convenience, because in the past, I would have gotten out the checkbook, found the little stub that tells how much my water bill is, wrote the check, sealed the envelope. I'm too cheap to mail it, so I would have stopped in front of the municipal building and walked it up and dropped it in the slot. Now I go and it's done. How easy is that? Maybe it saves 2 or 3 minutes, but when you add all those little things up, it amounts to a lot of time. It really does. So set up auto pay for your bills, pay your bills online. Look at what's on your list and see what you can cross off. Because maybe some of the things on your list, when you really think about them, they're not as important as you think. use something someone else created. Teachers are notorious for doing this. We call it, we call it kind of, we don't call it stealing. We call it making good use of your resources.
I call it collaboration.
Yeah, okay, that works too. And so why reinvent the wheel? If somebody has, like Mary Kay, what'd she say? If you have a good idea and I have a good idea, it just makes sense. So don't reinvent the wheel. I've subscribed to a couple things recently that have saved me so much time. It wasn't that much money to do it, but it saves me so much time. And so look at some things like that. What can you do? What can you use that maybe somebody else has created instead of you creating it for yourself? And then the other thing is do the other things in non-people hours. And I'm going to call non-people hours before 9 and after 9. Maybe you can move it up to 8:30. I personally would not call or text anybody for sure before 8 o'clock in the morning. It depends on who it is and how well I know them. And I definitely would not call them after 9, maybe even 8:30. And I think that just depends on your situation. Dolores knows you don't text people at 6 o'clock in the morning, right, Dolores? She learned, and that was a really good lesson for her. And she knows now that not all people are morning people. She knows better than to text me at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'll look and see it, but I'm not going to probably answer her. So anyway, so those daytime hours, the prime daytime hours, those hours can be spent on things that are significant and things that add life to your Mary Kay business. So just real fast, if you want to write this down, if you don't know where to find a weekly plan sheet, I'll show you mine in a minute. You're going to go in touch and under business tools, way at the bottom, it's going to say weekly accomplishments. There'll be a drop down menu and it'll say weekly plan sheet. You click on that, you can print them off, okay? And then I know you're probably not gonna be able to see this, but I want to tell you just a little bit about how I do this. I'm pretending that I have a job outside of Mary Kay because I know that most of you do, and I wanted to make it more relevant to your situation. So what I've done is anything in blue is prayer time or church or workout time. That's why there's not very many of the workout time, because I don't like to do that. So I think I did put in 2, prayer and workout. Well, that isn't going to happen, but I'm trying to be intentional. Okay, anything in green is intentional family time. I know that doesn't look like a lot, but you know what? This is from 12 to 5. That's this whole Sunday afternoon. You don't want to probably be with your family more than a few hours at a time. I'm just saying, anything in yellow is if I had a job outside of Mary Kay. So, I just kind of assume 7:30-ish till about 4. That's my job. But look what I did in the middle. And I know Trista does that. Anything that's in kind of that reddish pink color, that's my Mary Kay business. And why is it in the middle of the afternoon? Because during lunch, depending on what kind of job you have, maybe you're somebody who gets an hour for lunch. And you really can be done in a half hour. What do you do with your extra time? Trista knows she books appointments during her time. She calls people, she coaches people during that time. So you might think, oh, I only have 10 minutes. Do you realize how much you can get done in 10 minutes? If you are intentional about it, you can get a lot done if you're prepared and you have your list and everything ready. So just to give you an idea, let's say it's Monday, you're going to do, prayer, workout. I'm working, but I'm going to throw in some booking, meal prep and supper, or it could say, go out and find Kentucky Fried Chicken or whatever, bring it home. And then like this is unit meeting. This is what we're doing right now. You want to plug those times in too. That's Mary Kay time. And yes, it's not income producing, but it's just really important to your business. So make sure you're intentional and you block that out. So unit meeting in red zone. This is tomorrow night, the body care party. Okay, this is Pearls of Sharing. If you're like, how am I ever going to do, 2 parties a week? Well, there's one right there. It's done for you. I mean, basically, you just have to follow up with people. Here's a couple more on a Saturday afternoon I have Saturday morning with family, but Saturday afternoon from like 2 to 4, 2 to 5, online party. There's another one Friday night. And still allow for family time, and a date night. And then there's stuff in here that's not filled out because maybe that's going to be time with your significant other, because that might be time where you're going to do your inventory or do those the non-income producing activities. So anyway, I learned how to, to color code this. Jana did that, and I find it easier for me, to do that. That's the only reason I've color coded. There's no special way you have to do it. So anyway, that's kind of what I had. So I thought I would just open it up for questions. If anybody had any questions or had anything you want to add, something that maybe worked for you that I didn't talk about.
Hey, I really like the fact you explained brain dump, because I really felt that the brain dump thing was lining out her weekly schedule. I didn't think about just writing down anything and everything that was happening in her out of the mind and then organizing it.
Right.
You're just dumping your brain on the paper. Anything that's concerning you. You can go a step further and categorize that. Home, personal, work. That way your 6 most important list doesn't have bake 3 pies on it. It's, you know what I mean? It's all like.
Yeah, and I was going to talk about the 6 most important lists, but I thought maybe that could be another time, because that's kind of another whole, I didn't want to go on too long because I didn't want to keep everybody. Irene, did you have something you wanted to say or ask?
Yes, I wanted to say that I found that doing your weekly plan sheet, if you do it on a consistent daily basis, it still saves it. So when you go, like, say, for example, today, if I did so many contacts or a booked, I can still put that on there. It will still be on there until I complete it and I submit it to my sales director. It makes it much easier than waiting like, oh my gosh, now I'm not stressing. If you do it on a consistent daily basis,
Right.
by the end of the evening, you have it completed.
Right. Absolutely. And your weeks, honestly, they're not going to look the same every week. Maybe somebody's going to have a birthday party this day. I mean, it's going to fluctuate. The whole idea of the weekly plan sheet, I think, is to just be intentional, to do that. So anybody have anything else they want to add?
I just want to go ahead. Trista, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Jana.
Oh, it's okay.
I feel like for a weekly plan sheet, if you are used to like using a planner, like it really does coincide with that. I pull my school planner when I am working on my weekly, or not my weekly accomplishment sheet, my weekly plan sheet. And so like what Rosie was saying is like, I know like there are, like I start out with my non-negotiables, like which is work and my family time and church time. And then like my Mary Kay calls on Sundays and Mondays. And then the times like tomorrow night, and then getting a career calls for Wednesdays. Those are easy, already scheduled times. So you're not stressing out to like figure out where to fill that time in, I think. But there's also like, even though I have like my non-negotiable times, like there are like, and this, I mean, someone might be like, I can't believe you look at your phone at church, but I do. Okay.
God might be calling, you never know.
Yes, like absolutely. Like, for example, I got a call from somebody I didn't know at church on Sunday, and like I stepped out because I wasn't sure. Like they left a voicemail, and it ended up being a new customer. So I'm dropping off satin hands to her on Thursday, from a girl I go to church with, her friend. Like, but like you just like people reach out with times that work for them, and so like thinking about what works for you, like that would be an income producing moment in my non-negotiable time. So it's just kind of like being flexible. Like during my lunchtime, I obviously today, because it was the first day of kindergarten, that didn't happen, but
that's a Tylenol lunch hour.
I know, right? But once like school gets going again, and like I find my balance with my class and things like that, like I know that it's going to be too easy to work my business or talk to the girls at school and just be like, hey, did you get the new catalog? Did you hear about this new product? Have my samples with me, things like that, that I know are income producing and lead to those things. Just even like at school and things like that, or if I'm sending out an email or something that kind of just talks about certain things. And so those are things that have helped me with my weekly accomplishment sheet. And you see the whole week at a glance. It's not like a daily planner where you just see like the day in front of you, because sometimes we get so focused on the day in front of us that we forget about what the whole week holds. And like really a lot of time that actually you do have, that you can get quite a bit done. And so like for me, if I have orders that are placed in the evening, which is a lot of times what we're doing is my customers are messaging me or I'm returning calls. Like after we've put the boys down and I'm on the couch with Asa, like he knows like I'm there, but I'm also still kind of working my Mary Kay with my phone and the computer. And so we talk through that, and I'm placing those orders, but I know that I don't want to spend that extra time after everyone's gone to bed. So I plan like getting up a little bit early in the morning, and after that quiet time, I know I have 30 minutes to prep those orders that I had. So invoicing really quick and packaging things super cute, because I might see so-and-so at school. So I know I'm going to take that package with me to school. And so thinking about those times with that before 6 kind of time, because that's not on the schedule. And some of you might be getting up even earlier than 6 o'clock. And so thinking about those times that you can plug in and work, right? Well, I'm up at 5. So,
Oh my gosh, she's up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So freaky. Yeah, I'm just going to bed about that time.
but that's kind of what has worked for me and what works for our family. I have 2 young boys. Asa doesn't get home till later in the evening now, so my schedule's changed quite a bit. And so just trying to figure out what works best for our family while still being able to meet all of the goals that I want for my Mary Kay business. So, but the weekly plan sheet really does give you a whole week's perspective. So if you haven't ever used it, like it really is a piece of our tool that really can change your Mary Kay business. It really can. So that's kind of what I say about that.
It can. And you are a master, I think, at time management, Trista. You're smart. You manage your
Well,
time in a
sometimes
smart
I am,
way.
especially when I'm intentional. Here's the thing. This is what it comes down to. We have to be intentional. That's what it comes down to, because like Rosie, like, of course, like there's a book that I'm reading right now that I want to finish. Okay. It's just a good book, a good read. I started this summer and I'm almost done, but I'm also like, okay, like I will give it 20 minutes of read, because I need to touch base with some customers tonight. And so I know that I could just say, oh, I'll just wait till tomorrow. But like, do we really want to just wait till tomorrow? Like I can read tomorrow. And so it's just kind of, and then of course, who doesn't like to binge watch? Like we all have our guilty pleasures of things that we like to do. Like we have a pool up in my backyard. I want to be out sun tanning on the freaking floaty. So I put my phone in a little Ziploc, waterproof it up, and I'm talking to people on my phone as I'm sunbathing. Like priorities, right? And so it just, those things that, like, there are things that you do have to give up a little bit, but in the long run, like, what are you wanting to get out of your Mary Kay business? And like, what are you willing to kind of fudge a little bit, I think. And so that's kind of something that I'm kind of still figuring out and working on. So anyway, I'll stop talking. I felt like I've talked a lot.
No, thank you for your input. I think you're exactly right. I mean, now, a lot of times Steve goes to therapy now, and sometimes I'll do an errand. Other times I just sit in the parking lot and I work my Mary Kay business, right? From there.
Oh, absolutely. So my
know.
boys are in Muay Thai right now, which has ruined my life. I'm going to be honest. Extracurricular activities are of the devil. Okay. I'm just kidding. But
It's
like
hard though.
being a mom of boys that want to be involved, like this is a new thing for me that I'm trying to figure out in my life. And I don't want to deny them, but I also know like it's in the evening times. So like one's at 5 and one's at 5:45. So from 4:45 to like 6 o'clock, almost 3 nights a week, we are at Muay Thai. What am I doing? What am I doing? Ask me what I'm doing. I am bringing my phone. I'm bringing my computer. I am looking at things. I'm also working school stuff, but I'm also doing Mary Kay stuff. I'm looking around the room saying, who do I know that I haven't handed a catalog to yet? Like, but you have to, because I could sit there and yeah, absolutely talk with the people, like, and not do anything productive. But how am I going to take advantage of this hour and a half? I have an hour and a half that I can take advantage of.
An hour and a half where your kids aren't bugging you. That'd be
sometimes, right?
well, at least one, not both at the same time.
They take turns, but anyway.
Trista.
Thank you, Trista.
Trista, I feel like maybe you've already read this book, Atomic Habits, because some of the things that you talked about doing is making the right choices in your business. You know, you could read. Personally, I'm an action person, so it's like I'm focused on doing something active, action, work. I don't read very much, so I have to make myself read 4 pages a day. So, but I love a lot of what you talked about is in there. And you guys, sometimes when we start going back to seminar and stuff, you can get these from Pink Printing and it's a whole tablet, like it tears off. I've only got 2 left, but I can always order them online from Pink Printing. And so they're cutesy, and I love it because it's on a pad. So I just tear it off. Now, another thing, I've started I have this binder that has my brain dump and everything in it. I'm like, Jana, don't buy that. Just find some cutesy ones online and 3-hole punch them. You know, you just need 1 a week. But Rosie, you are so good. You're so good at training. I love what you said about God won't give you a vision for something that you don't have, that he's not going to give you time for. He's given us all the same time in the day. Squandering time, saying yes to too many things, talking about the brain dump and how that they can shave time off, delegate things. Everything that you taught was so spot on and so good. So I just want to thank you so much for that. Anyone else want to share something they took away and that they're going to start implementing? I know y'all are going to implement everything.
I just really, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, you're fine.
I just really appreciated like a lot of it was not all of it, but some of it was review for me, especially with the brain dump. And they're easy things to get away from. And that's not a fun thing to admit, but they're easy things to get away from and to skip over and say, you'll do it later. You'll do it, blah, blah, blah. You won't do it at all because, winging it's great. It's a great idea. Just kidding. But I really appreciate you going over that and then some of the things that you expanded on with that. So as someone who is not a natural planner, but I've forced myself to like it or enjoy it somewhat, this is really, really, really good. I feel like we can always train on time management. So if you could just come back in a couple days, I'm sure we'll need a refresher.
Thank you, Kate.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording.